Okay, things have slowed down a little bit with folks jumping in, so we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome to the Fisheries Informational Meeting for our Northwest District. This is the fourth and last meeting that our Fisheries Division is putting on for the Game and Parks Commission and creating this dialogue with our anglers and our constituents. So thanks for being here. First off, want to recognize multiple commissioners that are online tonight, Commissioner Zingula, as well as Commissioner Berggren. We appreciate your attendance and the support. Also want to recognize the staff. The staff that is going to be presenting tonight from the Northwest District, Fisheries District Manager Al Hansen, and our biologists, Zach Brashears out of Valentine and Joe Rydell out of Alliance. So they're going to be putting on a pretty good show for you guys tonight. Hopefully you enjoy it and get some good insight from it. Also want to recognize our division administrator for fisheries, Dean Rosenthal, is on, along with a number of other fisheries division staff, as well as other division staff, other divisions within our agency, including wildlife, parks, law enforcement, communications. We appreciate everyone being on and being available to answer questions as they come up. And then also there's some folks out in the crowd I know that have volunteered for a number of our different efforts, whether it's through outdoor discovery programs, family fishing nights, fishing clinics, those sort of things. We appreciate everything that you do for us. So we'll go ahead and get started with the program. Getting started is always the toughest thing to do. Okay, right off the bat, I just want to let folks know we like, and I think everybody's done it so far, like everybody to click on mute so we aren't having too much static in the background, and that's on your lower left-hand portion of your screen within Zoom here. So if you click on the mute, you'll have a red microphone bar that shows that you can't be, that your voice can't be picked up. Another thing that we want to do is turn off our video. So that's the next button over. That kind of helps with our bandwidth and our internet connectivity. It helps move this program along a little bit more quickly and streamlined. And then the last thing, at least in this Zoom setting, that I wanted to point out, at the bottom of your screen is this chat box. The chat box is really where we want the dialogue or the comments and the questions to be entered into. And then we have a moderator that will pick those out, and we'll address those at the end of the presentation, at the end of the program. So as we're giving this information, going through different things, if things pop into your mind as far as comments or questions, chat them in, or put them in that chat box at any time, and we'll accumulate those questions and take care of those at the end. So a few things new for 2022. I hope everyone has had a chance to at least peruse the new fishing guide. You can take a look at it online at outdoornebraska.gov, or you can pick it up at our different district offices, service centers, and where a lot of times where you go and get your bait and tackle. A few new things, at least statewide. We had a number of fisheries regulation changes throughout or within this last year. A few things in the Northwest District to pay attention to is mainly our channel catfish regulation that changed at Box Butte Reservoir. We've added Box Butte to the restriction of only allowing one channel catfish 30 inches or longer at that reservoir. And another thing that is going on a little bit different in 2022 compared to years past is no live bait fish regulation that was implemented at the Fair Lake WMA. So those are the main things in the Northwest District. One thing I wanted to mention as I kind of had this audience and as everyone is on here and typically very passionate about fishing and in the fisheries in your region, is the aquatic habitat stamp. We've reached a milestone with this program within the Game and Parks Commission. Back in 1997, this innovative stamp that was slapped on an additional fee to our license really proved to be beneficial for our aquatic resources as we moved ahead. We're able to take this money that was generated from the aquatic habitat stamp and directly put it into water bodies to enhance aquatic habitat. And in addition to that, we've been able to do a lot of different angler access features and enhancements along the way as well. And that was implemented in 1997. So 2022 marks the 25-year anniversary of this program. And it is very important for us to recognize and celebrate this feat. We've done numerous projects across the state with this funding mechanism, the funding that was provided directly by you, the anglers, and in partnership with a lot of other entities like Nebraska Environmental Trust, Nebraska Department of Environment and Energy, and a lot of different collaborators within NRDs and those entities. Over 130 projects spanning from one end of the state to the other. And it's just been very impactful to our aquatic resources and to the anglers out there utilizing them. And in that vein, we are going to be doing a fairly large celebration. I know this is a meeting for the Northwest District, but there are some folks that are on this meeting from the southeast part of the state. Conestoga State Recreation Area is near Lincoln, Nebraska, and we're going to be hosting an event there June 18th. Dubbed a Day at the Lake, where we're going to be doing an event, providing fishing equipment, having a number of different vendors out there, and just celebrating fishing in Nebraska and what everything that can offer for you. And along the way, Conestoga Reservoir, we're hosting it there because it's one of our most recent aquatic habitat projects and really turned out to be a gem of one of the marquee places where you can go and see these enhancements and features that the aquatic habitat stamp made possible. Something currently going on right now, and that's going to be happening here for the rest of the month and a little bit into April, are our trout stockings. Where we have a lot of trout stockings that are going on statewide. We have a number of trout stockings that are going to be ramping up in the northwest part of the state here within the next week or two as well. And I know the guys that are going to be presenting some information are going to detail some of those stockings coming up. So I won't take their thunder at this point. But just wanted to mention this is an important event, an important program for the Game and Parks Commission and the anglers out there. We do a lot of these put and take trout stockings throughout the state in the spring time period and the fall time period to really promote people to get out and fish, take kids fishing, take people new out fishing and enjoy these fish when they're stocked. And that kind of leads me into our Take 'em Fishing campaign. Our Take 'em Fishing campaign has been very successful over the last few years. It's a program where we want to promote, mentors taking children, taking new anglers, or taking friends that maybe haven't fished in a long time out fishing to, enjoy the resource and show them just what it's all about. This program offers a number of different potentials for prizes. From kayaks that are going to be given away as entries are made into this, as well as potential fishing getaways at some of our state park areas with cabin stays. So if you have interest in taking folks out, really want to push you towards this program and enter some of your experiences, and you have a chance to win some really neat prizes. Another thing that's fairly current going on right now and going to be going on for the next month or so is our production crews and our management and research crews going out and collecting fish, collecting brood fish, collecting eggs and hatching eggs to get them into our hatchery systems to eventually grow out and stock out into many of our public water bodies for you to enjoy. One of the things that's going on right now, we've recently conducted some sauger broodstock collections, some muskie collections, and currently doing northern pike as well. And then in a couple of weeks, we're going to be doing our walleye collections at a number of reservoirs across the state. Wanted to provide you a few kind of short clips, neat little videos that takes you kind of behind the scenes of what happens during these broodstock collections. And these videos that we're going to show you are a kind of a collaboration between our communications division, education division, and fisheries division to give a glimpse of what happens on the boats when we're collecting fish, and then after we collect the fish, taking those eggs. A lot of other things that go on in between there, but don't have a lot of time to show everything. So hopefully you enjoy these videos and get an idea of what's going on out there when our crews are out. So yeah, I know that video really gets our guys pumped up and ready to go out with the current weather we've been having. And as you'll see with this program going forward, our staff have been really diligently going through our data, working on different types of projects throughout the winter, and in order to present some information, not only for these types of meetings, but management reports, things for our website and that sort of thing. So we're finally getting to that point where we can get out in the field and everybody's getting pretty excited. And I'm sure you are too as anglers. So this gives a quick depiction or a layout of our district alignments. As you know, we have the Northwest District that is going to be highlighting some of their area projects and special fisheries out there. We've hosted this similar meeting for the other districts previously, and those meetings, if you are interested at all and you weren't able to attend, were recorded and will be hosted on our Game and Parks YouTube channel. So please check that out if you do have interest. Really encourage that, and appreciate the support tonight. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Al Hansen, the district supervisor for the Northwest, and he's going to introduce the district and the staff out there. And a little bit of technical difficulties here. I think they're going to try to reshare this screen quickly.
Did for a bit. There, now you got me?
We can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, I just dumped the whole thing on me. I had to launch the whole meeting again. Sorry about that. Anyway, yeah, ours is a Northwest district clear out here. We've got 15 counties, one of the biggest ones in the state of Nebraska. And we also only have 4.6% of the state's population out here too. So it's pretty much a rural area, and most of the sandhills is in our district, which is really a plus. They're very, very good lakes, very good fertile lakes. We have two of the federal waterfowl refuges in our district who we work very closely with. Zach works real close with them in Valentine. It's a big part of what we do out here in some of our fisheries. And we have one hatchery in our district, the Valentine Hatchery. And we would be really remiss not to have that. That's kind of our field station. And they may be hatchery employees, but between Zach and them, they cover a lot of duties in that area. So we really work together pretty good there. I'm really proud of those guys over there because it is kind of a remote area and they get a lot done. It's kind of one of our major areas for spawn collection for walleye. A lot of the bass come out of that area, bluegill. We get our catfish in the northern panhandle from them. Our district also entails some Bureau irrigation reservoirs. We have 3 of them. And we also have a lot of sand pits down in the North Platte River and some small ponds around the area. Also included in our district is most of the trout streams in the state. We have over 390 miles of trout supporting streams. Most of that's on private ground. And we do have some signed up for open fields and waters that are really good fisheries. White River and on 9 Mile, both of them are fairly sizable streams. And we have a lot of public water on Fort Robinson, on the Wood Reserve and the landmass we have there with the federal government and also the state ground. Fort Robinson is one of our, I call it our fishing state park in the state. Joe's going to talk on this later because we've done a lot of development on some fisheries there, and it's quite diverse, and it's one of those places that I took my kids there to learn how to fish, and I still go there to fish. So it's a well-used state park, but it's a very important asset and part of our district. And our hatchery personnel at Valentine, I just need to mention their names, or Doug Graham is our production manager, Derek Schrack is our fish culturist, and Clayton Osborne is our conservation tech. And I just like to mention them. Like I said, they work real closely with Zach. So I'm going to turn this over to Zach. He's going to cover some of the projects that we have in that area. And we're going to kind of tag team back and forth between Zach and Joe covering a lot of stuff and me on another renovation. So anyway, glad to have you guys on tonight. Hope you have some good questions. We'll kind of keep this moving fairly quickly. So hopefully you got questions, and that's usually where the meat of the matter comes on these meetings. So I'll give this to Zach. It jumped the whole Zoom meeting off. I can hit resume. Oh, sorry.
You got it, Zach? Otherwise, it might be best to.
I think I got it now. Sorry.
No, that's good. That's good. I was going
Okay,
to
can
say.
you hear me?
Yep.
All right. I appreciate everyone attending tonight. Sorry for the technical difficulties. As Al and Tony mentioned, my name is Zach Fisheries. I'm the biologist stationed in Valentine, Nebraska in the Northwest District. My portion of it, I'm going to talk about our eastern side of the district, mainly Cherry County. So the first project I wanted to bring to everybody's attention is the Merritt Breakwater. This project was discussed before, but it originally began in 2015 and was to protect the new boat ramp that was installed right over here. We wanted to put a breakwater in to protect this ramp from the southwest winds. As you can see, it kind of had this sand natural point when the lake was drawn down. So we wanted to use this point to save on the cost of rock and stuff like that. This breakwater comes off Willow Cove. Due to higher than normal water levels in Merritt Reservoir 2016 through 2020, we were unable to complete it. We were able to get the boat ramp in, but just not the breakwater. In 2021, the reservoir was drawn down enough. We were able to get in there and complete most of the project. This breakwater is approximately 350 foot. And I believe it's approximately 50 foot short right now. The reservoir really came up last year. The contractor started losing a lot of rock off the end. So we decided to quit, and hopefully we'll finish this project in 2022. But as I said, the breakwater should protect the boat ramp a little bit from southwest winds. Also protect this bay where it's pretty popular for camping and swimming. And as you can see in the picture on the right, it should provide some pretty unique bank fishing access at Merritt, get you access out to a little bit deeper water. The main fishery in Merritt Reservoir is walleye. This reservoir has been pretty relied on from the Game of Parks for a walleye brood fish collection lake, as well as Sherman and McConaughey reservoirs. As you can see over the past 15 years, our catch per female per gill net has went up pretty well over the last 15 years. We were averaging about 6 females per net back in 2007, 2008, and in 2019 and 21, we were averaging about 13 walleye per net, female walleye per net. Also kind of on that same increasing trend has been our quarts per female, the graph on the right. In the last couple of years, 2019 and 21, we've been averaging about 1.5 quarts per female at Merritt Reservoir. And when you figure that out, we have about 125,000 eggs per quart. So each of these fish has been providing about 187,000 eggs per fish. Merritt has been a very valuable brood lake. We plan to go there and start collecting here beginning of April. So be looking for us out there. I think they're planning on going to Sherman and possibly McConaughey as well to meet state production needs. One thing we started noticing in 2015, 2016, we were starting to catch a lot of muskies while we were out there collecting walleye at night with these gill nets. Muskie are pretty difficult to sample with our electrofishing gear, and So we started catching a lot of these. As you can see, in 2016 to 2019, our catch rates were increasing drastically. So we decided we wanted to start a research project and look at our muskie population out there as well. This project is going to be at Merritt Reservoir and Cottonwood-Steverson Lakes, and it's to determine the age structure of the current muskie population out there, what length these fish can achieve, and if they can reproduce in these environments. This fish right here holding in the picture was caught at Cottonwood-Steverson this year. It's a 45-inch fish, and it weighed 32, 33 pounds, I believe, somewhere in there. So this is just kind of a few slides to show you the process of how we're going about this muskie collection. I should mention this project was supposed to be started in 2020. Due to COVID restrictions, we paused and started it in 2021. Right now, we have 60 muskie tagged in Cottonwood-Steverson and about 65 tagged in Merritt Reservoir. But we bring these fish back to the walleye shack and they're put in these big tanks, and then they're sedated using an aqueous solution. Once these fish are sedated, we're able to get total length, total weight, and whether they're male or female muskies by looking at their vents. These fish are then implanted with a pit tag. You can see it's a very small tag, and it's injected right by the dorsal fin at the back of the fish. Anglers are not able to see this tag, but if we collect the fish again, we're able to scan it, and each fish has a unique barcode. So each individual fish, we'll be able to see how well they're growing. All of our muskie stockings going into Merritt over the next several years are going to be tagged as well to see how these young fish how well they grow and adapt to the environment and recruit to our populations. So. Also, when we have these fish sedated, a pelvic fin is collected. Kearney, UNK, I have to send out thanks to all those guys. They took all the fins, cross-sectioned them, and mounted them on slides. We're then able to age these fish. We just got these slides about a week ago, and we're starting to process them, but you can see this fish on the right is a 36-inch male, and he was approximately 9 years old. Like I said, we just have about a year of data, but this is some of the stuff we're starting to collect. Some of the graphs I'm starting to work on. The Merritt muskies are on the left and Cottonwood-Steverson are on the right. The males in blue and the orange or red are the females. With our Merritt males, they range from about 30 to 40 inches, and our females range from 34 to 46 inches. We're the biggest we collected. Cottonwood-Steverson had males ranging from about 26 to 41 inches, and our females ranged from 25 to 45 inches. So another reason we're wanting to look at this is our Cottonwood-Steverson muskies have a 40-inch minimum, and just recently, a couple years ago, we put a 50-inch minimum on muskies at Merritt. So we'll be able to get some pretty unique data here in the future, whether these fish can get over 50 inches and whether it's just our female population or our male population that can get that big. The next stuff I want to talk about is some of the lake renovations we completed in the Northwest District. The one I'm going to talk about is Hackberry Lake. For those that aren't aware, renovations are a useful tool for us when a fish population becomes unbalanced, usually with an invasive species such as common carp. Hackberry Lake was starting to become unbalanced, so we went in there and renovated it this last summer, fall. We use a chemical called rotenone, which just affects the way the fish can uptake oxygen. We treated Hackberry Lake on August 10th of 2021. It took us approximately 26 man days. That was just for the treatment of the lake. There was a lot of work involved before that. But we had 6 pumper boats out there, 3 applying liquid and 3 applying powder rotenone. And we also had 2 airboats applying liquid rotenone to the shallow areas the pumper boats couldn't get to. We started using a lot more powder lately than liquid. It's a lot cheaper. You can see the cost down here just for the Hackberry treatment, 1,020 gallons of liquid for $96,000. 11,000 pounds of powder for $61,000 for a total of $158,000 for just chemical for Hackberry Lake. So these lakes take a considerable amount of time and manpower, and we couldn't do it without the aquatic habitat stamp that Tony was talking about earlier. Here's just a short video I put together the day after the renovation. It shows a number of adult carp that were present in Hackberry Lake the day after the renovation. You can also see some smaller game fish present, but we did some considerable amount of work on there, trying to salvage all the game fish we could. And those salvage game fish were moved to other lakes open to fishing on the Valentine Refuge. So that just shows kind of just a one little area on Hackberry Lake, the number of carp present. It was pretty much like that all over the lake. So. All right, so since we've renovated Hackberry last fall, got in there. The hatchery was on board with us and had all the fish ready to go in there as soon as we got the lake renovated. As you can see the numbers, we stocked approximately 350,000 bluegill, 130,000 yellow perch, and 67,000 largemouth bass. We plan to stock 70,000 crappie this fall in there. So we'll go out there this spring. Hopefully we don't document any common carp in there and see how our panfish and largemouth bass are growing. And with that, I will turn it over to Al Hansen on our next renovation.
Made it okay. No, I'm off. Yep. You hear me? Okay, it's slow to unmute. Anyway, we've done some other work on our other refuge down here at Crescent Lake. It's in Garden County. It's the Crescent Lake Refuge, and it gets a little confusing. That's one of the names of the lakes that's off the refuge. It's one of our WMAs too. But anyway, we had a chance to do Smith Lake. It's a 225 acre sandhill lake. It's on the northwest side of the Crescent Lake Refuge. And we renovated this lake in 1996, but the neighboring rancher didn't want any chemicals on their place. So we couldn't do the ditch or a lake marsh, whatever you want to call it, right above it. So we didn't get a successful renovation, but we still had good 20 years of good fishing out of it. It's kind of a hard sand bottom lake with a lot of bulrush, and we're really looking forward to getting a yellow perch and a big bluegill fishery out of this. We're going to stock smallmouth bass in it is what our plan is. So anyway, this one we had a little different setup than we did on some of our other renovations. We're able to pull dam boards on this. You know, it wasn't totally a natural lake, and they had worked on this years ago and put a dike up, and we could drain this down to next to nothing. And this particular time, the Mormon church was a neighboring landowner that now has that ditch and a marsh to the northwest, and they let us on there. And between Zach and Joe and the refuge manager, they went up there and sweat pretty good. They got that totally treated, and we think we probably got a good kill on the carp this time. So we also did a little bit down below to keep carp away from down below the structure, so nothing's close ever again too. But we've got more to do on that later. But yeah, we're working on quite a few sandhill lakes and the refuges up in Zach's area. That was a another topic from last year. And if you have any questions about those developing fisheries that are going to be coming on, you can give Zach a call. Yeah, and unlike Hackberry, where we used 1,000+ gallons of stuff, we only had to use 120 gallons here on Smith. So it was a very efficient renovation, and by drawing it down, we always feel like we're quite successful too. So eventually, after we get our smallmouth established here, which is going to be a little different for our Sandhills fishery, I'm kind of excited about it. And we figure we can get a little better bluegill and a yellow perch fishery out of this. This lake has always been historically clear when the carp were in it, and the bass tend to get not overpopulated, but they're a little too efficient of a predator along with our fishermen to keep our panfish in good numbers. So eventually we'll bring some black crappie into the lake too, but not right at this moment. So anyway, we'll go on with some of our other projects. Joe's going to talk about some of the remaining projects we got in the fishing forecast too. So. I lost the whole meeting again, Joe, when you took it.
All right, can you hear me?
Hey, Joe, real quick, if you click on that little, that circle that's white highlighted, click on that, see if you get a better view. There you go.
Hello. They get rid of our closed caption we had going on too. Had a little technical difficulties there.
And,
My name's Joe
and,
Rayo. I'm gonna talk to you a little bit
hey,
about-
Joe, sorry again. You're on mute. You're coming through Al's microphone, so.
How about now?
Great.
All right. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about one of our aquatic habitat projects that I've been working on the last couple of years, the Fort Robinson Aquatic Habitat Update. Fort Robinson has several small ponds. We got the ice house ponds. I'll kind of move around, show you where they're at. Ice house ponds down here, the Grable ponds, Cherry Creek and its diversion pond, Carter P. Johnson Lake, and Crazy Horse Dam. And each one of these ponds are around a century old. They all have failing infrastructure. Kind of all have a little bit of issues we wanted to address with this project when we first got it started. The original plan was to start this off in a 2-phase project. You know, it's kind of a lot of stuff to take on at one time. So breaking it up into phases just kind of made sense, not only for money, but also for maintaining ponds with fishing opportunities on the fort while we're working on them. Phase 1 was tackling the upper 3 Grable ponds. We ended up combining them down to 2 ponds rather than 3 ponds. And then getting into the Cherry Creek pond and its diversion pond, and then did some work on the ice house ponds. And that was completed in the spring of 2022 or 2020, excuse me. The plan was then to come in and work on Carter P. Johnson and Crazy Horse Pond as a phase 2. This is a picture of Carter P. Johnson. One of the main issues with this was in 1991, a drastic flood came through the area, and a wall of water and silt and ash following a forest fire kind of filled this reservoir in. There was a dredging attempt for the next couple of years afterwards, trying to deepen it. It worked a little bit, but as you can tell, it still vegetates pretty much to the surface, and the majority of the lake is still pretty shallow. So we wanted to deepen this pond and then do some angler access improvements while we were at it. Unfortunately, with recent years, the Department of Natural Resources Dam Safety reclassified the dam on Carter P, and it's now considered a high hazard dam. Excuse me. And with the high hazard dam, there comes more restrictions as far as what that dam needs for safety precautions. And a lot of those changes in the emergency spillway and some of the dam itself need to be incorporated into this project. That really slowed down this phase 2 for Carter P. Downstream of Carter P about a mile is Crazy Horse Dam. And this has similar issues to what Carter P has. It's pretty silted in after that flood. It gets vegetated. It's pretty remote. We're looking at deepening this pond and then putting in those angler access features. But we really can't work on this one until we do Carter P above, since anything we do on Carter P is going to affect what we do on this one. So that kind of set us back a little bit on these two ponds as far as the design and permitting and stuff goes. Meanwhile, the lower Grable Pond, one we weren't planning on working on, had some issues. This pond was left out of our plan. It was kind of has fluctuating water levels. They had a pretty good fishery in it, but one of the dam boards broke on it. We lost the majority of the water out of it. So this kind of opened up an opportunity for us to do some work on this one. So our new 2 phases got converted into working on lower Grable Pond next, while we're working on some of those design features with Carter P. Johnson and moving into a 3-phase project. We're hoping to get started. We have a pre-construction meeting or pre-bid meeting, maybe pre-construction meeting coming up here later this month. I'm hoping to get going on this lower Grable Pond. Some of the stuff we're looking at doing with lower Grable Pond is going to be replacing the outlet structure with something similar to what we have here on Cherry Creek Pond, concrete riser structure. We're going to put in another fishing pier, sheltered fishing pier. Trying to do some more angler access improvements to this pond, get you out there kind of a little bit further out into the pond, access some of that deeper water. And then we're going to put some in-pond habitat. In the first phase, we used Georgia cube designs and some rock piles. With this one, we're going to use more natural brush and some of those tree stumps, and then some rock with it as well. Moving away from Fort Robb, a couple other of our state recreation areas, you can see some fishing improvements this year. One big improvement you might notice, I was talked to some of our other meetings if you've been on, we're going to be replacing some fish cleaning stations. Merritt Reservoir is going to get 2 different units, and Box Butte's going to get a replacement this year. And these are Barracuda units. Now they operate a lot quieter. They're more efficient. They pretty much can take anything you can feed through them. They're almost like miniature rock grinders, the way they operate, rather than a big food disposal. So we're really looking forward to getting these out there on our areas in the western part of the state. Another project that's going to get started here pretty soon is Walgren Lakes Fishing Pier. The old pier is a floating pier that's seen better days. This picture was after the spring of 2019. If it doesn't get removed every year, which is a pretty expensive task, it's subject to get taken out by the ice. It's been put back together. It's been functioning, but parks want something a little bit more rock solid, less maintenance. That's still going to function and do the job we're looking for. So we're looking at eliminating this, going a little bit further north and putting in a rock jetty type fishing pier. It's going to be the same shape as the old one. It's just going to be similar to what the breakwater is at Merritt. This should be getting started here pretty soon. Hopefully get this one done by the end of summer. So you might see some construction out there. As Al mentioned, we have quite a bit of cool water streams in our area, trout waters. So we have a couple big cool water stream projects we're working on this summer. One of them is one we're going to do ourselves in-house. Coffee Park up on South Belly Creek. It's owned by the village of Harrison, and it's a pretty small stream. It had a huge flood go through in 2015, and we're going to come back in, do a little bit of in-stream habitat work, putting in some rock structures, dig some pools out, put a little bit of wood in for bank stabilization, make it a little bit more fish holding ability throughout the park. A little bit bigger project that's going on is out just east of Shadron on Bordeaux Creek. We have a watershed management project going on, and to kick it off, we're going to start off with a smaller, kind of more demonstration site. What improvements can be done on Bordeaux Creek, that's going to be done on our WMA. This section is going to be broken up into 4 different reaches. We're going to be starting off working on the top 2 reaches, but we hired a consulting company to help us design this. The project's currently out for bid right now. Hoping to get started sometime this year on the first phase of it. But this is going to be doing a little bit of in-stream habitat work, kind of repairing the functions of the stream, getting a little more connectivity to the floodplain. And we had some specific management goals to improve brown trout and other native species habitat. If you've been on, any of you been on for the other public meetings, we've talked a little bit about the fishing forecast. A lot of the work that we do as biologists includes getting out and monitoring the existing fish populations. And all this data that we collect during our fish surveys, that's a useful tool for our anglers. Getting a chance to see and plan where they want to go fishing, what the fishing's like. Daryl Bauer puts together his fishing forecast every year, compiling our state survey data just for anglers to see. And this comes out usually around the first of the year. So, but we're going to break it down a little bit tonight on what's going on here in the northwest part of the state. To start with, where does this data come from? When we go out to survey fish populations, we're using different types of equipment, different types of gear to target certain species. For nearshore species like bluegill, crappie, yellow perch, northern pike, we run trap net, frame net surveys. For a lot of our brood fish collection for maybe for education events or disease testing, and then do our largemouth bass surveys and trout surveys. We use a lot of electrofishing. And then finally, for our offshore species such as walleye, sockeye, channel catfish, white bass, we set gill nets in the fall for them. So looking at what this data entails, we'll break it down species by species. We'll start off with walleye. If you look at these graphs, each one of these bars indicates a lake survey event. The color-coded bars on each one of the bars indicates a different size structure to that population, as indicated in the top right up here. I put the arrows on top to show which lakes are on our part of the district compared to what other lakes are. This will be kind of similar across to all of these. But the way an angler can use this information, if you want to go walleye fishing in the state of Nebraska and you want to plan your trip out, you look over to the right and realize, well, today I want to go harvest fish. Well, 15, 20 inches is good harvestable size fish. I'm going to look at the graphs from the survey data from the year before and see which ones have good beige colored bars across it. Maybe those are the ones I want to target for a pretty successful fishing trip. It looks like Winters Creek, Merritt, McConaughey, Maloney, Big Alkali, Big Indian. Those all have pretty good harvestable populations. Maybe you want to be a trophy fisherman. You're looking for the very big fish. So you're looking for this dark purple graph. Well, it looks like Merritt, McConaughey, maybe Meadowlark or Pawnee have some pretty good populations of big walleye and sockeye. So those are places where to target is. That's kind of how you can use this data to plan your trips out. If we look at just the lakes that we have in northwest Nebraska, kind of see what's going on. Winters Creek and Merritt kind of consistently are two of our better walleye lakes. They've been pretty consistent over the years. Merritt's got a little bit better size structure. It can get some really big fish out there, where Winters Creek kind of grows them up to 15 to 20 inches, and then they go home. A couple of lakes worth noting on this, Crescent Lake, looks like we got a good abundance of 10 to 15 inch fish. Well, these are only 2-year classes of walleye in that lake. We were stocking sockeye in that lake, and it really wasn't working. And when we switched over to walleye in 2019, it's kind of really clicked. So this is a lake that may be worth considering in the next few years as that population continues to grow. Big Alkali is another one. It's doing really, really good on saugeye. In 2014 or 2015, we switched over from a walleye stocking to a saugeye stocking, and the saugeyes have done really good in there. And it's continuing to be one of our top populations in the state each year. It's not all good news for our district right now. If we look at Lake Minnetonka is typically mirrors pretty close to what Winters Creek is. And right now we're running about 4 year classes, pretty weak year classes of walleye in there. And we're just down on numbers. So if you typically fish Minnetonka, it might be a pretty slow year out there, but we're really watching it and trying to get it going again. Moving on, channel catfish. So looking at channel catfish, kind of similar. Now, if you wanted to harvest catfish in the state, you're kind of looking for maybe 11 to 24 inch fish. So the red bars or the beige bars. We don't have a lot of real high density catfish populations. Looking at the ones we have in our part of the state. But some of the destination lakes in the state might be East Twin, Big Indian looks pretty good. Kind of using this for those color patterns. If you're looking for big fish over 24 inches, Maple Creek looks like a pretty good destination looking at the map to me. But if we break it down into our district and see what's going on, as I mentioned, the walleye numbers down in Minnetonka, but having a reduced number of predators in the lake has allowed for pretty good survival in our catfish population. If you're looking for harvesting catfish this year, that's definitely the lake to go. If you're looking for big trophy catfish, Merritt and Box Butte, even though they don't have high densities in there, they consistently produce catfish over 15 pounds every year. And that's why we changed our regulation to protect some of those bigger catfish, allowing only 1 over 30 inches daily bag. Gotta excuse me a little bit. I'm kind of battling a cold here, trying to run dry, trying to talk a little bit. But moving on, northern pike. The northwest part of the state has quite a bit of the pike fishing in the state. We didn't get out to do a heck of a lot of surveys this past year. But Dewey Lake or the Valentine Refuge is kind of a destination for northern pike for a lot of guys. And Dewey Lake had a pretty good catch last year. With a lot of fish in that 21 to 28 inch range, and even some pretty big fish over 34 inches. On the further west end of the lake of the district, Box Butte's kind of our bread and butter. It's been one of our better pike lakes over the years. The abundance is down from what's been in the past. We're seeing some better size structure in pike. There's a few more over 34 inches in that lake, but following the couple of years of high water, that pike population is doing pretty well. Anglers looking for some bigger pike should consider Crescent Lake. It was a pretty low population during the spring survey, which is one reason we're going to be stocking some pike in there down the road this year. But out of the few fish we caught out of there, almost all of them were over 30 inches, with some over 34. Looking at bluegill, this is a pretty noisy slide. I just kind of wanted to throw the whole statewide up there, just kind of show you that Northwest District, we're usually towards the lower abundance of bluegills compared to some of the surveys in eastern Nebraska. But if you look at just our lakes and you look at the size structure, most of our lakes will produce bluegills over 8 inches. We're kind of blessed with that out here. For this coming year, if you're looking for catching some really big bluegills, the couple of lakes that we'd recommend trying out would be Box Butte and Fry. And then we didn't sample Smith Lake, but Smith Lake should be a pretty good one here for bluegill this year. Yellow perch. And Dewey Lake and Avocet Lake both have pretty high catches of yellow perch in 2021. Dewey Lake had the highest percentage of perch over 8 inches. But you might be pestered with a lot of little ones in that lake. Avocet had that high density, but those made up the majority of little perch. If we remove those two off this survey, we can kind of see better size structure for the remaining lakes. Fry Lake looked pretty decent. It was still comprised mostly of small fish. There's a few bigger ones in there we have seen doing other surveys, but overall, it still seems like it's kind of building back after some high years of harvest out there. If you're looking to, we don't really have very many lakes right now that are producing much over 10-inch fish. My advice to anglers looking for perch would be to look out some of our bigger reservoirs. Box Butte's doing pretty decent right now, and Minutair's got some nice perch in it if you can find them. Black crappie, or crappie in general. Whitney's been kind of the best crappie lake we've had in quite a while. After getting shad established in there, and white crappies put on top of it, Whitney's really taken off. If you want to catch and harvest crappies, it is absolutely loaded with 10 to 12-inch crappies. Most of our lakes don't produce quite that high density. If we take that Whitney Lake out of there so we can see a little bit of the size structure, another one that's kind of coming on pretty good is Crescent Lake. It's got a decent number of 10 to 12-inch good harvestable fish in it. Walgren Lake is another one worth mentioning this year. This graph kind of shows a lot of 8 to 10-inch fish in there. But when we looked at it, most of those crappies were 9.5 inches, just under that 10-inch mark, and plenty harvestable. Anglers looking for big crappies this year can adventure into Home Valley, and it's pretty hard to get there. But if you're willing to put in a little extra effort, whether it's hike over and fish out of a float tube, pair of waders, or a kayak over the hill, or wait till it ices up, it's got some older crappies in there that are averaging right around that 13-inch mark. Largemouth bass. I left the statewide largemouth bass graph off because it's pretty noisy. There's a lot going on. So just looking at the few lakes that we surveyed last year for largemouth bass, Fry Lake continues to have a really high density largemouth. We're seeing a few fish over 15 inches in there, even up to 17, 18 inches on the upper end. If you're looking for a place to take kids fishing right now, it's a great spot. Pretty high catch rates, lots of fish, and chance at a big one. Most of our lakes have pretty good bass populations over 15 inches. But if you're looking for some bigger bass, rice, duck, and avocet will be all places we're targeting this year, even though avocet wasn't surveyed in 2021. These are just species that this last slide just kind of shows that if there's something you're interested in, reach out to us. We encounter different species as we're out surveying. Might not be a target species. We have a good idea where they're at. Use us as a resource. We can point you in the right direction. Maybe you want to go out there and catch pumpkin seed sunfish or musky fishing or trout fishing, and we can point you in the areas that seem to have those decent populations. Next, I want to talk a little bit about some of the fish stockings we do in this district. In 2022, we have almost 2 million fish requested in our stocking database. It depends on the size of the fish, how many we stock per acre. Smaller fish, we stock a higher number versus more advanced fish. But overall, our request this year is for almost 2 million fish to get stocked in the northwest part of the state. Kind of break down a little bit what we're stocking and why we're stocking them. Gizzard shad, we're going to move some adult gizzard shad into Whitney Lake and Cottonwood-Stevenson Lake. Both those lakes have shad populations in them, but we do get winter kill being at the northern extent of their range where they can survive. So just to maintain that we have some adults in there for spawners to maintain our prey base in there. And then Crescent Lake's going to be a new introduction this year. Trying to get some shad established in there to feed those walleyes that are coming on. I mentioned Crescent Lake population on the Northern Pike is a place to go to catch big pike. We haven't seen much for recruitment in there, just the ones we've stocked years ago. So we want to come back in with another stocking there to kind of boost that population. And then following the renovation in Pelican Lake, we got carp back in there. We tried a tiger muskie stocking. And then lo and behold, last year we found pike back in the system. So depending on how this spring's pike catch is, we might be putting more northern pike back in Pelican as well. Moving on to muskie. Zach brought up our muskie project going on. So part of that project will continue our stockings at Cottonwood, Steverson, and Merritt. And then we're requesting some tiger muskies for Oliver. Oliver had a pretty high density of stunted common carp in there, and trying to get a few extra teeth on them to help knock those carp numbers back. We'll be stocking some white bass this year in Merritt to help boost those numbers. With alewife in the lake, natural recruitment's pretty low, and it seems to grow white bass really well. So getting a few in there to help boost those numbers for another additional opportunity. Since we put gizzard shad in Cottonwood Steverson a few years ago, we've had an abundance of food source in there. We've been struggling a little bit on the walleye and saweye. We're still trying to work on getting them up and going. But with that abundance of food, we started stocking some wipers a couple of years ago, and they're doing really well. So Cottonwood Steverson will get another wiper stocking this year. Smallmouth bass, we have a couple lakes that have recently renovated. Smith Lake on the Crescent Refuge, and then Upper Ice House Pond on Fort Robinson. We'll be receiving some smallmouth this year. Hackberry Lake up on Valentine Refuge. Zach mentioned it's already received a largemouth. I'm not sure if that must either got stocked this spring already, or maybe that was stocked last fall, but we'll come back in there with some crappies this year for sure. And then moving on yellow perch. Cottonwood, Steverson, rat, and beaver are kind of struggling on our perch populations. So they're going to get a little boosted stocking this year. And then we've been using the Big Lake Alice system down in the North Platte Valley. The way it operates is almost like a big rearing pond. We stock some yellow perch in there, and then in the fall of the year, after they grow all summer, they get flushed down into minute there to help boost that population. And then we got another stocking of perch coming into Smith Lake there on the Crescent Refuge. We'll be doing more channel catfish stocking this year. Most of our irrigation reservoirs get stocked on an annual basis, as well as a lot of our small city ponds and small sand pits get catchable catfish, 10-inch catfish put in there. We'll be continuing walleye and saweye stockings to keep those populations going. And we do see some natural recruitment going on in the state, but as has been mentioned, especially in a lot of our other district meetings, we depend a lot on our hatchery system. So we'll be continuing those stockings in the district. And then kind of moving on to the last item is our trout stockings. We get an opportunity this year. We got a batch of brook trout that our North Platte hatchery has raised. It's kind of interesting to be able to raise a cold water species in a warm water hatchery. But using RAS systems has allowed us which is a recirculating system. It allowed us the opportunity to raise the species and help booster some of our populations, which brook trout are pretty popular, especially with our trout slam going on. But we stocked some, these were already stocked, or most of these were already stocked this year. We'll be finishing up the last of those stockings here next week. But we've already stocked Tub Springs, Tucking Hole, and Sheep Creek and Winters Creek down in the North Platte Valley. We'll be stocking Squaw Creek, Soldier Creek, Derby Creek, and Southbelly Creek up in the Pine Ridge area. And then we'll booster some of our pond stockings on the Fort Robinson, and then the Wood Reserve ponds will get some this year. We had some tiger trout in the system. These have already been stocked as well. These are catchable tigers that went into the Alliance Golf Course Pond and Shatner State Park Pond. And as Tony mentioned, we do a lot of catchable rainbow trout stockings across the state. We do quite a bit of it out here in the northwest part of the state. These typically get stocked in the spring, March, April, May, and then also in October. This is a great opportunity to get a kid out. They're pretty high catch rates. They're easy to catch, simple tackle. These nice weather days we got going on. And as you mentioned, we're starting to kick them off here next week. Terry's Pit and Scottsbluff Zoo Pond will get stocked here on the 21st. Then the 22nd will be the Bridgeport Middle and Bridgeport Northwest. Then the last week in March here, we'll stock the North Morrill Pond and Middle Morrill Pond. The last thing we want to talk about is aquatic invasive species. Now, this has been brought up at each one of our meetings as well. But the first one to talk about is our zebra mussels and quagga mussels. Most of you probably are already familiar with these. They've been talked about quite a bit. They filter out a lot of the nutrients in the system, compete with zooplankton for reducing productivity in our fisheries. We do have zebra mussels in Nebraska. They're located mostly in the Missouri River systems, and then a couple lakes around Omaha. One interesting way they do get spread is through adults. We have encountered them in mothballs, the pet industry. This has kind of quickly been addressed. Chris Starr, our new aquatic invasive species coordinator, absolutely loves Petco. They've been one of the main distributors in the state, and he's gone door to door to every Petco in the state and taken every mothball off the shelf, and zebra mussels have been found in each one of them. So there's more avenues than just fishermen, but we all need to do our part to stop the spread in aquatic invasive species. As I mentioned, we haven't seen any zebra mussels in northwest Nebraska, but we all need to do our part to prevent the spread of them. And I know we have a lot of fishermen that travel to other areas, such as the Missouri River in South Dakota, and even fish a lot of the Kansas reservoirs. And each one of these red dots that show on the distribution here are zebra mussel infested areas. So if you do fish these other areas out of state, make darn sure that you're clean, drain, and dry when you come back to Nebraska to prevent them from getting into our waters. One of the major threats to our water bodies here in northwest Nebraska is aquatic vegetation. This picture here is Smith Lake WMA and curlyleaf pondweed. Curlyleaf pondweed and Eurasian water milfoil are two species that can spread by fragmentation. It only takes a piece of the vegetation in order to spread and infest a new water body. And once infested, they kind of take over a water body. Curlyleaf can grow pretty much out to about 9 foot of water. As you can see here in this picture, they can really take over a whole water body, especially a sandhill lake. The current distribution where we found curlyleaf so far in the northwest, it has showed up at Merritt Reservoir, especially Powderhorn Arm. I did document it last year at Box Butte Reservoir, and of course it's been at Smith Lake for a few years now. Chris Starr has been going out and doing a little bit more intensive vegetation sampling, and Eurasian water milfoil is one species that unfortunately we've found in quite a few of our water bodies in the state as effect of some of these surveys. And we do have a northern water milfoil. It's a little more firm and brittle. It doesn't have nearly as many leaflets as Eurasian water milfoil, but we did find the invasive one. And last year in our part of the state, it was documented in Cottonwood SRA Lake, Smith Lake, Box Butte, and Carter P. Johnson. And we suspect it's probably in a few more areas. We'll be doing more vegetation surveys this year, looking around, see what else we can find. Chris is trying to get a game plan together, how we can battle this and try to get rid of it where we do have it. So it's important that we clean, drain, and dry our boats and all of our equipment, so we're not moving this stuff around. That includes looking at your boat trailers coming out of the water, draining any bit of water that you have to prevent the veligers, the reproduction of zebra mussels. We're going to be having technicians out this summer We're hoping to get one in the northwest part of the state here. They'll continue to conduct boat inspections and do more routine vegetation samples, and also be continuing to monitor veliger samples in our reservoirs. But it's everybody's responsibility. If you do happen to see something out there that looks odd, that you think might be one of these invasive species, reach out to any one of us. We'd be happy to look at it, talk to you, or you can even report it directly to Chris Starr. His email is here on the screen. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Tony and see if we have any questions.
Yeah, this time there's been a number of questions and comments come into the chat box, and so appreciate the interest in the questions there. So Jordan Cott is going to take over moderator duties and divvy out some of these questions to our staff, and we'll do our best to answer them.
All right, thanks. The first question we got was actually emailed in before the meeting started. It has to do with the fish camp at Big Alkali and any potential improvements, both at the boat or at the campground and at the boat ramp area. So I'm going to bring in Hunter with our wildlife division to address the campground, and then Zach's going to talk a little bit about any potential upgrades at the boat ramp area.
Yep. Hey guys, this is Hunter. I guess to start off with Big Alkali, as far as the cabins go, those have been condemned. Right now, we don't really have a plan to replace them currently. Camping is free. It's on a first come, first serve basis. Right now we have electricity there, that's free. No water. So if you're gonna camp there, plan to bring some water. We got some other issues there with the road when we have high water. Tom's done a pretty good job here lately of keeping that up. It's been dry, so that's helped. And then I don't know if you guys are gonna hit on the water control structure issue or not, but that's kind of the go around with the cabin area right now.
We weren't really going to talk about the water control structure as of now, but we've had some discussions over the past year. We're hoping to possibly get a consultant there this summer to look at doing some work on the boat ramp and the breakwater. The breakwater was ice heaved over several years ago. It typically goes underwater each spring, causing a hazard. We try to buoy it off as best we can and just kind of getting by for now. We know it's a popular area and we hope to do some work there in the future. So I hope that answers your question.
Yep. All right. Thanks, guys. Al, I'm going to bring you in on this one. It has to do with tiger muskie at Pelican and why they are not subject to the 40-inch statewide minimum.
Well, all we wanted in there was a replacement for northern pike. If we'd happened to got them cleaned out in the renovation, and by reducing the bag limit on them, they'd just be able to be controlled out of the hatchery so they wouldn't get out of control. Pike tend to reproduce and recruit to the population a little too much, and there goes your pan fishery. So that was our first thought, but right now we can see that there was some pike left up in the drainage, so we will curtail that, and we have no need for a 40-inch size limit on them. And I think there was another question in there too about 50-inch size limit elsewhere for muskie. And according to our creel data, it's pretty much just a catch and release fish anyway in all our water bodies, and we have no plans right now of going 50 inches on anything else. So, and fact is, the 40-inch, I don't think people are even harvesting them. We get, I can't remember what Zach told me on the creel, but it's just next to nothing what's ever harvested each year. So no, we aren't looking at a 50-inch size limit anywhere else.
Thanks, Al. Joe, do you want to touch on stocking cutthroats at Fort Robb?
Sure. Yeah, that might be a little bit better. Cutthroats are actually not available through our hatchery system on an annual basis. We get them on odd years. So they won't be available till next year, but we will be putting cutthroats back into some of the Fort Robb ponds. Carter P will probably be down by next year. We might move some over into the Grable ponds to keep that opportunity on the fort. But they'll probably go into the Wood Reserve ponds up there, also the White River.
Thanks, Joe. Going to bring in a couple of our law enforcement folks, Frank and Sean. You care to touch on enforcement of special regulations on lakes up in that area?
Well,
Go ahead, Sean.
well, I was just going to kind of ask if there's a little bit more specific question that they're looking at. I was just going to say, as far as enforcement on those areas, honestly, it's not going to be any different than what we're providing on any other areas. With that, though, I will also say that a lot of our good information, it does come from the anglers that are out there. We're pretty few and far between. Can't be everywhere all at once, but boy, we sure take a lot of calls from the public on stuff that's going on, and we do look into those too. So by no means would we want anybody to get into any type of a confrontation, but a quick phone call with letting us know what's going on, maybe snap a picture from a phone. We can do a lot with that, but unless there's some specific questions that they want answered, I guess that's kind of generally what I would have to say, unless Frank has anything more.
I'd kind of second what Sean was saying there. And, I guess at times it can be difficult to enforce some of the different regulations. Biggest thing is getting people to read the fishing guides and the hunting guides every year, because some of that stuff changes. And for the most part, when people do that, it pretty well takes care of itself. And again, when people are out there and see that stuff, give us a call.
All right, thanks, guys. And yeah, whoever asked that question, if you have anything more specific that you had in mind, here you go. Is it hard to enforce the 5 bluegill bag limit?
So far, it hadn't been too bad, but I would guess that it's going to get that way. Just because it's relatively new for there on the refuge. I think it's Pelican.
Sure. All right. Thank you, guys. This one, I'm going to ask Zach. Can you kind of talk about, when it comes to road-known applications, kind of the difference between powder and liquid, and how far each of them go?
Sure. I should have talked about that as part of our renovation. On liquid rotenone, 1 gallon will treat an acre foot of water, and the cost right now is $94.38 a gallon. As far as powder, it takes 8 pounds of powder to treat an acre foot of water, and the cost is about $5.63 a pound right now. So if you took that times 8, it's $45. So our powder rotenone is costing about half of what liquid is. Granted, we do need liquid in some situations, especially out of the airboat pumps. We can't run powder out of it. And it's a lot easier to run some of our drip stations up in springs or creeks above these systems with liquid rotenone. So.
Thanks, Zach.
I'll move it back over here.
Zach, do you care to touch on how the both the muskie and walleye populations are doing in Merritt? I know it was briefly touched on, or it was touched on during the presentation, but anything to expand on?
Sure, I can touch on it a little bit. I think our muskie population's holding pretty well at Merritt Reservoir. We're starting to draw more and more anglers each year. We had a guy come out of Minnesota last year. There's some YouTube videos he promoted there at Merritt. They did fairly well, had quite a few follows, caught 8 or 9 muskies, and the week they were there, they were pretty tickled, especially from being out of Wisconsin and musky waters. They specifically came to Merritt to target them. On Northern Pike, I showed in our graphs, our best lake's Dewey right now. Last year we sampled the most pike we ever have since we've taken over surveys. It's looking pretty good. Like to get a few more bigger fish in there, so hopefully we'll keep working on that. And yeah, so that would be the 2 spots I would hit.
All right, thanks, Zach. And then all 3 of you can kind of touch on this if you care to. Just in general, what's going on to enhance walleye fishing in your neck of the woods? I know you've kind of touched on it already, but anything you'd like to expand on further?
Yeah, we pretty much stock walleye in every water body that would support them. And you can't do anything different as far as like when we are at the behest of the snow melt, like in the North Platte Valley. We've been down on water for a couple of years, and this year looks terrible. So anyway, we stock all we can. Whitney's good, Box Butte good, Minotaire's the only one down. Merritt's right up there at the top of the heap. So I don't know what else you could do.
Yeah, I'll kind of voice in on this a little bit. One thing we've been really trying to stay on top of is maintaining a prey base in our good walleye lakes. Like getting on top of it and stocking some adult shad in Whitney Lake and Cottonwood Stevenson are 2 areas where, maintain we got a food source in there for when the walleye year classes are coming through, get better growth on them. Minotaur is one that it's been talked to me before about trying to do maybe a slot limit or something on there. But when we get a bigger year class of walleye go through, it seems to reduce our recruitment that year. So by trying to stack more bigger walleye in there, that lake's functioning pretty good right now. As a walleye factory, growing them to 15 to 18 inches and letting them go home at that point. We stay consistent year classes that way and still get a few bigger fish once in a while with big year classes when they do come through. Yeah, just trying to keep food on top of the walleyes is one of our big feats.
All right. Thanks, guys. Question concerning white bass and Merritt. If a person wanted to go fly fishing for white bass or just in general target, where would be a good place to start?
I guess I'll start. I would probably not go to Merritt Reservoir. We have a few white bass in that system. We just have huge alewife numbers, like Joe was saying. Our recruitment's very, very low in there. Sometimes we'll see a few make it through. We've been trying to do some stockings, trying to bump that population, but I hate to deter somebody from Merritt, but probably wouldn't be for white bass. So Joe might have some better ideas out west.
Yeah, where we don't really have a consistent river inflow to any of our lakes. We don't get the white bass populations they do in eastern Nebraska. We do have the capability of growing some big white bass. Minotaur when the inlet's going is really good. Guys do pick them up at Whitney on occasion, and they're usually pretty quality. But if you want to target white bass, you're better off making a destination trip and fishing Calamus or Harlan or some of those Southwest reservoirs.
All right, thank you guys. Kind of back to the refuge now that carp are back in Pelican. What systems are in place to try to prevent them from moving back down the system?
Yeah, I guess I'll start that and Al can jump in if he wants. The precipitation event we've seen in 2019 was pretty phenomenal. There was flooding everywhere. We had highways flooded over up here in Cherry County. Nothing like that was ever seen. So we did unfortunately get carp back into Pelican, or we did not kill them in the renovation. They got a pretty good spawn off, is the reason we stuck tiger muskie in there to help control them. But as for the project right now, we do have a structure between Hackberry and Dewey Lakes in the system to prevent carp from coming up the system out of Dewey Lake. So that's the reason we went ahead and did Hackberry this last year. Now we're going to sit back and probably give it a year or so and see how we did in Hackberry and then go from there. So on the rest of the renovations down the system. So.
Thanks, Zach. Have a question about Coffee Park. Joe, you kind of mentioned that, and Al, looks like you might want to jump on that one as well. It appears there may be some limited public access there. Can you just talk about how that project developed and maybe expand a little bit more about that project?
Yeah, the Coffee Park is pretty much open to the public. It's a beautiful substrate stream, and it had a terrible flood that just destroyed the whole thing and widened it. And that's why we're working on it. It had some funds from, I think FEMA actually put some funds into it. But anyway, it's a short section. We're going to go in there and do it ourselves. We've designed it ourselves, and we'll do the construction. Shadron Park isn't broken, and Shadron Park flows way less water than that. And the substrate in it is kind of muddy and silty, and the drop isn't as much. But Shadron Park isn't in that bad a shape. Coffee Park was totally destroyed, so we got to go in and do some work on it, and that's why. It's got a good flow.
Yeah, I saw in the message there that mentioned only being 200 foot long. The actual park area and playground area is pretty short, but their property extends quite a bit on upstream from where that's at.
Yeah, and it is open to the public.
Thank you, guys. Kind of along that same topic, the Tub Springs area, I think you mentioned something about stocking some fish in there. Could you expand on the public access area in that region or that area of your district?
Go ahead, Al.
Well, way back when we were doing McConaughey strain rainbows, there's irrigation canals that have structures that inhibit fish, trout, from getting up in these upper ends of these streams. And they're pretty much devoid of any kind of fish. Oh, there's some small orange throat darters and some dace in it. We used to stock nursery stream McConaughey rainbows in them, and then they'd run down the system in the spring of the year. So some of these areas we've gone back and put some brook trout in the upper ends. We just established a trout fishery. Most of these people down there will let you fish if you ask. It's all on private ground, but we've never had a whole lot of trouble with people getting on to fish. And it's new. We're just trying to establish something there. There's a private group that's trying to get McConaughey rainbows established down below. And they're with some limited success. You know, the fish hatch, you see them in the stream, but we're not seeing any return population yet that I've seen. So that's, a lot of these streams are dug out along county roads. So, you know, there's public access there. You'll see that a lot on lower 9 Mile, some parts of Tub Springs, but you know, they're pretty much private, but it doesn't mean that you can't go fish it if you just do your homework.
Okay. Kind of in response to the Coffee Park thing, is there a barbed wire fence that surrounds it, and how do you kind of navigate around there?
Sure, I'll take that. When we do this project, we're actually gonna put some crossings in that are a little more angler friendly. That is operated as a cattle grazing pasture. So by putting in more angler friendly crossings through there, it'll be better when we're done with our project.
Thanks, Joe. I'm going to bring in Phil Shavala, biologist from the Northeast District. Question regarding Calamus Reservoir and the relatively new walleye length limit up there and how that may be affecting the walleye fishery there. Phil?
If you, well, it kind of depends on your perspective, I guess. The new reg is allowing the harvest of one more 15-inch fish than it used to be. You know, we had what we call the Copeland rule there for a while, where it was only one fish, 15 to 18 inches, and the rest had to be over 18. Prior to that, it was an 18-inch minimum. Yeah, you could go out there and probably catch some nicer fish, but you were going to fish, you know, you were fishing through 100 fish at a time to try and get one keeper, was kind of the complaint back then. So you know, if you like taking fish home, I don't think we've ruined it at all. If you looked at the graph from our district's presentation prior to this one, yeah, you can see that we had a pretty low catch this last year, but that's why we sample annually. That could be environmental factors this year, why it was low. There was a lot of fishing pressure out there, so it could very well be angling. But we're still carrying over a fair number of 15-inch and larger fish from year to year.
What's that?
And still producing some 18 inches in addition to that. So I don't think that we've ruined the fishing out there or lower, you know, I think it's still a good quality fishery. And our goal there is to kind of, as long as we can keep that recruitment up, cycle those fish through and allow people to take a few home to eat. That's our goal there. And it seems to be functioning well at this point. So I don't think we've heard it. So.
Thanks, Phil.
You bet.
Al, I'll direct this one at you and anybody else that wants to jump in with the kind of the low water that we're having and kind of drought conditions. Any potential renovations that could happen just to take advantage of the low water going on right now?
We don't have any planned right now this year. Like Zach was saying, we're going to wait and see how Hackberry develops, and we're going to back off on Dewey for a bit. So nothing that we have planned unless we go below our Smith Lake down here on the refuge. You know, we have some leftover rotenone and finish cleaning out that system down to Upper Harrison Lake. But that's something we have to go through the refuge. The federal guys have to apply for a permit to do that down there. So we haven't really dealt with that yet. We got to meet with them here coming up in a few weeks, hopefully.
And if you didn't watch the Northeast District meeting, tentative plans are to possibly do Goose Lake, which is over in their district, Sandhill Lake over there. So.
Yeah, we'll go over there with an airboat. One of us will.
Thanks, guys. One of the last questions we got coming up here is dealing with Bridgeport and fixing some boat ramps there. You guys care to kind of elaborate on the condition of the ramps there and any impending emails coming my way? I can't hear you, Joe.
How about now? Before your time, when Satra was still here, we actually met out there at Bridgeport and came up with a new design, new location for a ramp. That ramp on Middle Lake is really steep. It was identified in our boat ramp inventory as one in need of repair. And it was kind of left up to Parks Administration on what they wanted to do. So it's kind of more of an administration question as far as where that one's proceeding from here. But there was a design and a plan that we came up with. Colby Johnson would be the best contact for it.
Yeah, we did that a couple of years ago.
And I might chime in too. It's a great question by an angler out there, and we continually like to receive calls and comments on our amenities out there, and if they're usable, what are the types of things that would be helpful to enhance your fishing experience. So as you see things, reach out to us and just let us know, and we can get it on our radar. So just want to throw that out there as people are out and about utilizing the different resources.
Yeah, absolutely. And the last question I have on my list here is you showed a picture. I think it was Joe Spooner holding a very large brown trout. Somebody wants to know where that came from.
That actually came from 9 Mile WMA.
Public.
There you go. That's all I have right now, unless anybody else has anything they'd like to type in the chat. Otherwise, I'll turn it back over to the Northwest guys and Tony to start wrapping up.
Go ahead, Al, if you want any closing comments.
Well, I'd just like to thank everybody for the questions and tuning in tonight, at least. I can't remember, we were a little over 50 people. I think this works way better than having a housed public meeting. I kind of getting used to this Zoom stuff, the way we handle this. It gives you guys a chance to think of questions on the side while something else is going on. So it gives us a chance to show, what's going on in our district, so. No, I kind of appreciate it. So hopefully everyone else got something good out of this. And thanks all the guys that put it on, especially our staff. Joe did a lot of work putting this together. I put a lot on him. Same with Zach. So I rely on them a lot. And thanks to our hatcheries everywhere across the state, Calamus and North Platte, because we all jump together here in the next 6 to 8 weeks and really put the wood to it to get stuff done. So thanks for those guys too.
Yeah, I just want to say thanks for everybody attending. Our information's on there. Feel free to reach out anytime. Any questions or concerns you may have, or want to know where the hot spot is, we'll try to lead you in the right direction. So thank you.
Yeah, I'll echo Zach on that one. Reach out to us. Give us a call if you have any questions out there. We're here to help you. We're here to serve you. If we can provide information, it's way better than word of mouth through a buddy. Get it from the source. We're working for the same goal. So reach out, talk to us whenever you can. We're here to help.
Yeah, these are great meetings for feedback and dialogue, and a lot of the information that was presented here, at least from the fish sampling standpoint, we put out in publication online and some of it in print. So those are good resources, but always having the staff available to reach out to is great too. So thanks everybody that attended and showed great interest and passion for these fisheries out here. It's really neat to see. And with that, I'll hand it over to our division administrator, Dean Rosenthal.
Again, I want to thank the team, Al, Joe, and Zach. Great job. Really appreciate everything you guys do out there. Folks, this is something that we do once a year. But like the guy said, if you've got a question, reach out, get a hold of these guys. They'll help you anytime. If they can't, they'll get somebody that can. And you know, like Tony mentioned earlier with the boating access, you see something out there, let us know. We really appreciate it because we can't be everywhere. We can't see everything. And every time somebody helps us like that, it really helps out. I want to thank everybody that was online tonight. I'd like to thank our commissioners that attended. Just a great forum. I do want to remind people, if you're interested in Lake McConaughey, Lake Ogallala fishery, we are having an in-person public meeting at the Lake Ogallala Visitor Center, March 29th at 7 p.m. Mountain Time. So if you're interested in that, that's going to be available coming up. Again, any questions anytime, give us a holler. We're more than happy to do everything we can to help you guys out. It's what we're here for. So appreciate everybody tonight, and thanks, and have a great evening, guys.